we've seen how our operations team works, and how what the checklists are and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, as I said, when we started about a half an hour ago, I think we really want to give you insightful information, and you might think that you might have questions about these things. And remember that we also have a weekly meeting at tea time on Thursday at 5 o'clock. 4 o'clock UK time every week on Thursday. If you have questions, if you want to be part of the close community and so on, just don't hesitate and join us, because we've got a nice appointment there. So before we move on, I would like to introduce you to the next section. The next section is about the pro work. We have JD McNeil is going to illustrate what is that we're doing into this area, and we are going to guide you through a little bit of an insight on which are the key projects we're following. Although we have so many, it's going to be hard, within the time frame. But we really wanted to give you that insight, because it gives you an idea of an extra layer of things that happens within Slytherin every day, every week. So without further ado, let me connect with JD McNeil. And he's in Epsom, I guess, like Ian, and we'll chat about the pro work. Hello, JD.
Hello, Marco.
Live from the war room.
Yes, indeed. And I've just been brought back in time to when Ian was 6 years old and we were playing war games. How remarkable!
That's absolutely true. I mean, we've been talking about war games for a long time now. JD, we said about commercial releases and all that kind of stuff, and an extra layer of things that happen recently within Slytherin is what we're doing with pro clients. Can you give us a little bit of a sort of a story of what happened, in the pro work segment of the company over the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, well, so let me give you a bit of a background here about how all this began. It now seems like a lifetime ago, but back in 2016, I received a call from a guy telling me he was speaking on behalf of the Secretary of Defense for the United States Air Force. I initially thought this was someone taking the pee. It was a hoax call. But as he started to speak about one of our older games, which some of you guys might know, Harpoon, it soon became clear that he was for real. He wanted to know if Harpoon could be utilized by various departments of the United States Air Force for research, analytical analysis, wargaming simulations, and so on. So we talked for some time, and during our conversation, I thought I should introduce him to command. And before long, he was frankly blown away by the potential. To cut to the chase, he asked if the Pentagon could send over an analysis team to be led by an Air Force Major General. I later looked up this guy to check his background out, and it was frankly phenomenal. He was commander of the Joint Task Force of the Southwest Asia, commander of the 9th Aerospace Expeditionary Task Force, and as a young guy, or a young pilot in Afghanistan, he was a flyer of the F-15s, which is part of the kit in the games. So when they came over, he brought with him a team of 4 guys, and they spent a week with us. It didn't take very long for them to get really interested in command. And as a result, we were invited to visit the Pentagon. Wow, this turned out to be a truly momentous occasion. And on the day that we presented in the main conference room, it was full of the top brass, the research officials, the analysts. Talk about exciting it was. We obviously had gone down very well, as the following month they sent across a team from the Air Force Research Laboratory. This is AFRL, which is a big name for us now. Plus, they sent some of the analysis guys from the University of Dayton Research Institute. And this was all to discuss the requirements that they needed from us. So the next thing, we were invited to visit the University of Dayton Research Institute, the UDRI. And this is based in Dayton, Ohio. And it's right next door to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And they are now one of our clients. It's the oldest and the largest military aviation museum in the world. And we were taken on a VIP visit. And I'll never forget the excitement of Dimitris. At the end of the tour, our host commented that he had learned more from Dimitris in the last few hours than in all his previous experiences. So for us, a new era was born, and we have now been invited to the Pentagon on 3 separate occasions, and quite clearly the word has spread. We are now currently working with 130 different militaries and military contractors across the globe, with a further 45 potential clients now in discussions. So, however you might have guessed that the work that we do with certain nationalities is, quite recently, I was connected by one of those who asked for a copy of our source code. And just to check if he was real or compatible, I said to him, well, we would be prepared to send you the source code if you pay us $40 million immediately. You can imagine where these came from, by the way. So within 2 hours, they had responded, and they got back to me offering $2 million for an initial download payment. You can imagine what happened then. Nothing.
Of course. But that's gives you the measure of the interest around command and some of the pro stuff we're doing. You mentioned earlier on, one of the first contacts we had was with the AFRL. AFRL is the Air Force Research Laboratory. What type of relationship do we have with them right now, and how they're using command?
Yeah, well, so to bring up the AFRL, we were initially placed under contract with the University of Dayton Research Institute, who were providing various levels of support for the United States Air Force. And they were bombarding us with a range of questions for specialist features. This presented a whole host of new challenges, and we were no longer just selling video games to individuals, but rather to various departments of the United States Air Force. So we had to come up with a whole new business plan. So instead of selling the games, we settled on licensing the products on an annual basis to these different departments, with the costs based upon the number of users, and this in turn sparked a whole new range of requests for upgrades and capabilities, all able to be run in a classified environment. And this is where the malleability of command really came to the rescue. For example, the Monte Carlo capabilities in Lua scripting, which we had created, have been hugely successful, providing automated editing and the ability to export data and events in real time. With the Lua scripting, our users can create experimental units, test ideas, operate cost controls, measure fuel consumption, and they replace all of our data with classified secret values, which we will never be allowed to see. A classic example of this capability is that one of our customers has just run a project 200 quadrillion times headlessly. So we have now been placed on a 2-year contract with the Air Force Research Laboratory at the Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. So that gives you a bit of a background into how we got there with the Air Force.
It's interesting that you mentioned different areas of use of command, which are completely sort of almost divergent from each other, and how every client uses command and other software is totally up to them. They can come up with ideas that we didn't even think of. One of these examples is, we talk about the Air Force, which is, an interesting example. Another example is the U.S. Marine Corps, right, where we have, more of a kind of a different use of command there.
Yes, indeed, Marco. In fact, the Marine Corps are probably, I would say, just about our biggest individual client. There are so many different divisions of the Marine Corps. We've been deeply engaged with them for some time now. And we were recently appointed on a major initiative via KBR. Now, KBR are one of the foremost US military contractors, and we have now just completed phase 1 of this contract. The Marine Corps have been across to visit us on several occasions to discuss and plan out a whole range of new requirements, which include the implementation of land warfare being incorporated into command. They also commissioned, for example, the multiplayer capability, which has now been successfully completed and is now available to all of our military users. We are still heavily engaged with various departments of the Marine Corps, and currently we participate on a weekly meetings basis to manage the progress and discuss implementation of their further requirements, which, as you will no doubt understand, I cannot share with you.
Of course you can, but it's interesting because I've seen this picture, for instance, I'm showing now. I don't know if you've seen this. The picture of the big hangar with all the use of command being projected on the floor and so on. It's stuff that we couldn't have even dreamed of when we launched command for the first time. It's really interesting to see how everyone finds a different way of using the product. That's interesting. But command is not the only product that is being used as from professionals. Can you tell us a bit more about how other games are also used?
Yeah, well, that comes back to a different division now of what we're doing. We're now turning to the UK. So we are also now under contract with the UK Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, known as DSTL. And we are just coming to the end of our first 2-year term, which has frankly now been extended. And we are also in the final stages to extend this contract indefinitely. I have already mentioned our relationship with the US partners, but we now have a similar relationship with DSTL. And prior to the COVID epidemic, we were frequent visitors to Portsdown headquarters, where they are based, and we often have visitors coming to our offices. An interesting concept here is that they have been appointed us as a sole source contractor. This means we can be placed on contract without having to tender or compete against any competitors. This is recognition of the fact that there is no one out there who can offer the services or products that we do. DSTL does not only work with command, they have also added land warfare capabilities into their requirements, and they have selected Flashpoint campaigns and combat mission from our catalogue of products to progress these needs. Other games are now being looked at as well. A very satisfying factor in our relationship with the UK and the US militaries is that we've been able to introduce the various contacts with whom we are working, and a level of collaboration now exists between them. We are also providing various products to the British Army Fight Club and to the United States Marine Corps University, and these are being widely used as a training capability for the military. And interestingly, this capability is now spreading, and we are now in negotiations to expand these services to other nationalities. And interestingly for you, Marco, the latest one we're speaking to is Italy.
Yeah, you're right. The concept of the Fight Club, for anyone who's out there and is not familiar with it, it's a pretty recent, collaboration that started off the ground from the combat mission game, and it's been spearheaded by Lieutenant Colonel Arnell David, and it's a group of military members of the military, UK military, that is developing the capability of the personnel to actually use war games in a professional environment for training, for analysis, and so on, in a more like a community-friendly base, not in a in a super heavily structured base, but as in a community. So they're using social networks and so on to actually spread the word about use of professional wargaming. And as JD said, this is also spreading into other nationalities like Italy and other European countries. There's a US version of it, very soon. So it's like, it's almost like a cultural shift that we started 4 or 5 years ago with Command, and is now, spreading across all the military. JD, I think this is the real key factor here, right? It's that we are almost growing a generation of war gamers within the military these days.
It's absolutely true, Marco. And the personal relationships that we have with some very senior members of the military has been paying great dividends. They've built up a confidence in us that we can carry out the work tasks that they require us to do. And they're continuously giving us pats on the back. Sometimes they pay us as well, and that's quite good. But no, it's been a very successful enterprise, and it's one that the team enjoy doing and being part of.
Yeah.
So no complaints about the military stuff at all.
No, I think one of the things you were mentioning, JD, is that of course, Command is is the main product here, is the main project that we're using to attract potential clients. And we are just shortly going to be connecting with Dimitris, the Command development team, a Command team that's been growing immensely over the years. We're going to go through the product stuff. I think Dimitris has been instrumental to all this growth, and his team, of course. But he's, as he was saying, when he went to the Wright-Patterson base, he knew more about it than anyone else.
Yeah, he did, and to be honest, it was quite embarrassing. He would walk up to pieces of equipment in the museum and start talking about it, and the guy who was the guide showing us round, he was totally bamboozled. He didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And Dimitris was there rabbiting on about it. It was a great, fun experience, and
Right.
It's been an exciting adventure, and it continues to explode. And I have to say that the main hero of all of this has been Dimitris. As I've said already, his knowledge and capabilities in this sector are second to none. And as I said earlier, he continues to surprise our clients and the product users with his depth of knowledge of their systems. He knows more about it than they do. So I can't say enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, JD. It's been really interesting to see, what the experience with the pro client is currently, and we look forward to a future event to see what the progresses are, and you can tell us about these.
Yeah, indeed. I'll now just go and have a wee drink.
Okay. I will see you later, JD.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks, JD. I think this gives you an idea of how much stuff is happening, and this was to give you also a wide picture of all the things that we are managing to handle at the same time.